Hello, everyone. Welcome to a very special episode of Uncanny Treks as we begin our coverage of the penultimate season of Star Trek Strange New Worlds. It's Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 4, Episode 1, Valles Marineris. I'm Bob in Cascadia. That's Matt in the Southland. We are Uncanny Treks. Matt, how you doing this evening?
Doing pretty well, Bob. Man, I was excited that Strange New Worlds is back. I've missed my Trek.
I've missed my Star Trek too. I recently binged the back half of Starfleet Academy. It's not the same. It's nice to have Strange New Worlds back, especially since I don't know after this and the next season and one more season of Starfleet Academy, who knows when we'll get Star Trek again. And in a way, I'm okay with that. Maybe let the franchise rest a little might be in order. Even though it would make perfect sense to do a Star Trek Legacy show or a Star Trek Year One show with Paul Wesley as Jim Kirk. It doesn't seem like they're going to do either.
Star Trek is like a machine that gets overheated when it's been running too long and needs some time to cool down, you're saying.
They definitely ran it too hot, trying to run 4 shows at once. Did too much. I find it funny that, on the one hand, the fact that I like Strange New Worlds and Lower Decks and you do too may read as, oh, we're just nostalgic. Strange New Worlds and Lower Decks are much more nostalgia driven than Starfleet Academy and Discovery and Prodigy. Then there's also the fact that Strange New Worlds and Lower Decks are good. They're executed at a fairly high technical level in a way that you cannot say of Discovery, Picard, Prodigy, or Starfleet Academy.
Would you say they're universally pretty much accepted as good Trek? That's the thing. I don't think there are too many people out there saying there's stuff bad with Strange New Worlds.
Maybe we should go looking for more bad coverage of Strange New Worlds just so we have stuff to respond to and get irritated about on the show, because that probably makes for good radio. I don't see a lot of anti-Strange New Worlds sentiment, but I do think that it's out there. And they even acknowledge a criticism of the show in this episode. So I don't know how common it is. And definitely people do point out about Lower Decks that it is just Star Trek via Rick and Morty, which is probably true, but I don't watch Rick and Morty, and I put that comparison out of my mind and don't dwell on it, and I'm able to enjoy it.
Well, the other thing, too, with Lower Decks is that it's animated. Puts a lot of people immediately off to it, which I get. I understand. Discovery has a mixed review. The critics are mixed on it a lot.
To be fair, I am diehard Star Trek Picard hater, but there's not that many of us. It seems like fan response to Picard is more positive than negative, which utterly mystifies me.
Going back to Picard, the second season was terrible. Third season, everybody was pretty much in agreement was fine, other than you.
Third season's worse than the second season.
See, you're on a whole different level there. But
I also feel my hating Picard season 3 also gives me a little bit of credibility to say, no, I'm not just a nostalgic. The nostalgia beats they were trying to play in Picard season 3 did not work for me, at least.
They worked for me big time. Woo. All right. Bob, let's get into Strange New Worlds and what we had going on here.
Yeah, I can't remember if I asked you this already, Matt, but are you sad that this is the only episode of Strange New Worlds we're getting this week? I think season 3, they premiered 2 episodes on the premiere.
So with season 3, Bob, they started off that season with a 2-parter, the second part of a 2-parter. It made more sense for them to drop 2 episodes because after that 2-parter was figured out, we got the conclusion of Gemini.
Don't remember that much about the Hegemony Part 2, but traditionally Star Trek Part 2s are pretty weak. So it does make sense to maybe backstop your Part 2 that's following up on a Part 1 from a couple years before with a second episode that's more standalone. That makes sense.
And the second episode was the one where Spock is supposed to be getting married, I believe, or something like that. Fun episode.
We love hijinks episodes, you and I.
Yes.
But the hijinks episodes of Strange New Worlds seem controversial. So that also probably makes sense of get your Part 2 and your hijinks episode out together. Yeah, that makes sense schedule-wise.
Here we had an episode that pretty much starts back at the status quo of all Trek of, oh, we're just going to explore Strange New Worlds.
I got a queasy feeling from the previously on because it was so focused on the main plot from the season 3 finale, which was the first time I've ever really been anti-Strange New Worlds.
Yeah.
You and I both thought that season 3 finale was atrocious.
Yeah.
It wasn't heavily referenced, but that was still the main focus of the previously on. So I had a sinking feeling of, oh my God, I thought we were done with that. Are we going back to that? And no, like you're saying, we didn't go back to it at all. Just the normal status quo of the show.
As I was watching the first part of this episode, my wife was in the room with me and she was watching it as well, just while doing her phone, whatever she does and stuff. So she was into it for the first 10 minutes. I said, oh, okay, I see. Because if you realize the first 10 minutes of this is normal no sci-fi, just talking about what's going on.
That always is something to keep in mind about Star Trek. Star Trek is a science fiction show, but it's also a workplace show. And in that way, it has more in common with a doctor show or a cop show or a lawyer show than it does a Star Wars cartoon, right?
Yeah. And it was pretty at the beginning too, because they're on their mission, they're on their horses. It was fun in the beginning too.
Well, Matt,
They're
I'm not going to give you a plot summary for this episode, but speaking of horses, I am going to ask in lieu of a plot summary. We basically have Yellowstone, Doctor Who, and Jurassic Park crossovers this episode. Of the three, which did you enjoy more, Yellowstone, Doctor Who, or Jurassic Park crossing over into Star Trek?
it was almost this weird unintentional tribute to Jurassic Park with the dinosaurs.
I will say, as my own little tribute to Sam Neill, before he died, my buddy and I watched a spy show he was in from the 80s called Riley, Ace of Spies. It's a British spy show. Really good stuff. I highly recommend that to Matt and the listeners. I think it's 12 episodes, one season, and it's a historical. So the guy Sam Neill's playing, Riley, is a real spy who in some ways was the template for James Bond, although he's also an inveterate liar and his career was quite a bit weirder than a James Bond movie. But it's different things of him going around the British and Russian Empire leading into World War I and then the Russian Revolution. Great show. I watched that, and a couple months later, Sam Neill died. So R.I.P. Sam Neill. Great actor.
The Doctor Who crossover piece here where you were talking about with the time travel,
Palia makes a pretty on-the-nose reference.
which was
to having-
awful. You cannot be that on the nose in Star Trek. That was bad.
I definitely think you're right that it was too on the nose. It didn't bother me as much as it bothered you, but I can't defend it.
Someone mentioned this on a message board somewhere that the only other way this is funnier though is if she's actually referring to Bill and Ted.
That is fun. Oh man, we maybe do need to read the Star Trek Legion of Superheroes crossover at some point. We should wait and do that when we're actually in the weeds of Legion comics, which might take years until I
Yeah.
get Matt back to the Legion comics. But the Star Trek Legion comics does have a minor crossover, not only with Doctor Who and Bill and Ted, but also Stargate and The Flash. That really makes me laugh still. Didn't Pelia make some other reference to Doctor Who last season? I can't remember, but didn't she?
That or there was something in her quarters,
Okay, yeah.
maybe that had a
And-
reference to Doctor Who.
Last season, in a bit of debris, we saw the TARDIS floating around. I don't think you or I noticed it the time when we recorded an episode about it, but I think I saw in a subsequent Easter egg article that you see the wreckage of the TARDIS in a shot. And
I just wonder in the next scene to be, oh, we can fix this with a screwdriver that's sonic.
To go to a happier crossover thing, Matt, did you find it funny that in the Yellowstone crossover, which I'm just saying because, you had Pop Mabinga and on riding horses, right? Which Yellowstone is the other big Paramount Plus show, although not really, because you can't watch it on Paramount Plus. I think you have to watch it on the Paramount Network and stream it on Peacock, which is confusing. But what spinoffs and all the prequels and all the other shows by that guy are on Paramount Plus, but not Yellowstone. But nonetheless, in the Yellowstone crossover, did you find it funny that it's arguably the three most alpha members of the Enterprise crew, Pike, Mabinga, and La'an, are the ones riding horseback?
Well, it's got to be, Bob. It makes sense. Only alphas ride horses, right?
That's right, only alphas, Matt.
You ever ride a horse?
No, Matt, I'm not an alpha and I'm overweight.
I've
Fat
never ridden a
ass on
horse either,
horse.
Bob. I'm afraid I'd get thrown off. That whole Christopher Reeve thing scared me away from horses.
Matt's like, I'm never getting near kryptonite and I'm never getting on a horse.
Yeah, horse killed Superman. We can't have that.
In fairness, it just paralyzed Superman and then probably.
Wait. Oh, you say he had a great life after that horse accident, didn't he, Bob? I didn't say it killed Christopher. I said it killed Superman.
Okay. I didn't see the higher rationality. you
There's
were
no
operating on.
Superman 5, Bob.
Based off Superman 3 and 4, are you really disappointed?
Yeah.
Fine.
Are you trying to say that horse is a favor, Bob? Is that what you're trying to say, Bob?
I wouldn't say that. I'm just saying I was someone really invested in the quality of superhero cinema.
This is so much worse, Bob, because the room I'm recording in right now, I have a Superman Christopher Reeve statue sitting on a table looking at me. Horrible eyes.
Can I just say that from my perspective, a Christopher Reeve's Superman 5 would be no worse and probably would be better than the Bryan Singer Superman or the Zack Snyder Superman. So no skin off my back.
I am one of those few people who love Superman 4. So honestly, I probably would have been okay with a Superman 5. But I like Superman 4 not for any logical reason, just nostalgia purposes, strictly nostalgia.
You like it because it has a superhero fight in it.
Exactly. It's the only Superman movie other than Superman 2 where we get a one-on-one fight.
Matt, speaking of the horses, when Pike, Mabinga, and hoping that they would beam up the horses into the transporter room too.
How did you think that was going to happen, Bob?
I just had hopes. I bet maybe Scotty would make a mistake. He is still young Scotty. He is still green Scotty, right?
If you are beaming them up, do they have an animal husbandry area on the Enterprise?
Oh, we know they do because remember the episode of Next Generation where they get the Space Irish on board and the Space Irish bring their farm animals. And
They should limit a horse to being a starship. Jeez, that'd be awful. That's a horrible life for a horse. Of course, here's my question though. If you put a horse in a holodeck, can a horse run freely? Probably. It would just be like being on a treadmill.
Yeah, that still seems that would go wrong.
That horse would run right into the wall.
One other question, Matt. If I was somebody who was bitter about this show for being a prequel, which I get in general, I wish Star Trek wasn't doing prequels, right? But it's here, it's what we got, so I'm enjoying it. But if I was somebody who was spun out that Strange New Worlds was a prequel, does the fact that Scotty has to regularly see Spock and La'an make out in public, does that a little bit change the original series and your sense of Scotty and Spock's relationship?
We're going to get some Spock Scotty episode at some point where they have to work close together. Maybe we'll get a little more into that.
That seems like a likely thing. We don't have all that many episodes left, right? We've just got 15 or something. But that seems the type of thing they would do in an episode. Another question is we have Uhura whiffing on trying to bond with this Vulcan cadet. And maybe Uhura should have spent all that time she spent on Vulcan language, just focusing on Vulcan culture and Vulcan social interactions instead. Would that maybe have been a good idea for Uhura?
This is the argument that some people are making. Is this Vulcan being rude? Because shouldn't she also logically know how to talk to humans in a way that's more conducive to communicate?
She logically know how to talk to humans, I agree, and she is rude. But on the other hand, the way Uhura approaches her is so overly friendly and culturally insensitive.
Uhura did not approach it correctly, but neither did the Vulcan, especially in the position that the Vulcan's meant to be in from a logical perspective, shouldn't have been that way to someone who's technically her superior officer at that point.
Example of the Vulcans disguising passive aggressiveness as logic, right?
They do this a lot, though, especially with Strange New Worlds. Thinking back to the episode where they all became Vulcans, Strange New Worlds has this characterization of Vulcans where they're mean, cold, rude people.
It depends on the show, but you can go back and you can see there's definitely some writers on the past show do Vulcans that way. If you go back to the baseball episode of DS9, it's a little bit the choice of this being Strange New Worlds being a prequel that's primarily about Pike and number one and Spock, right? And if you're going to focus on young Spock, who's alienated from his Vulcan heritage and his Vulcan culture, it makes it natural to make every other Vulcan in the show an ass.
That's the ultimate goal, I believe, is to make sure that Spock comes out looking like he always has those human characteristics that the other Vulcans don't.
As somebody who likes Vulcan, that's one of the things I wish the show wasn't maybe so anti-Vulcan. I agree with you on that. I also thought it was a little bit surprising. Maybe they're still going to come back to this character, but they spent a lot of time, relatively speaking, on that Vulcan cadet for her to just be rude to Uhura. And at the end of the episode, her to be like, yeah, nah, this place is too chaotic and emotional. I'm transferring.
I figured she'd stick around and something would happen where Uhura changes her perspective. Maybe they didn't want to go that direction.
Also, when they were first teasing that Uhura had a new cadet, I was assuming it was going to be Sulu. Some great dialogue this episode. We have number one chastising Ortegas. She's like, you know what the device is called. Scotty isn't even here to get annoyed at you. And Ortegas is, I know he's not here, but it just makes me feel.
Yeah, Ortegas was all on Scotty this episode.
Yeah, a lot of Ortega's Scotty attention. It was fun. I enjoyed it. Pilots versus engineers, man. And then, did you enjoy this show's joke that Pike promises number one that they're going to explore Strange New World and she's going to get to lead the mission, which in a way that's a pretty constant online criticism of the show is that they don't explore enough Strange New Worlds. And the joke is a Strange New World is Earth 65 million years ago.
Yeah. Just happens to be Earth. It's always Earth, Bob. Always back to Earth.
Back in 65 million years ago, we meet this technologically advanced Martian civilization, and we have the Martian commander. At first, first I thought maybe the Martian commander was Battelle, and in my mind it was, oh, is that why they spent so much time on Battelle in the previously on?
Yes, I thought the same thing. Actress looks like the actress who plays Patel.
Yeah, but no, it's different actress.
Her name's Saffron Burrows. She played Dottie in the show You. It's a serial killer show. It's a stalker show.
Stalker show. Okay.
Lifetime Dexter.
Lifetime Dexter. I do like that Lifetime Dexter is a stalker, not serial killer. It makes total sense.
It's got to be a little lighter, yeah.
Speaking of dark, Matt, is it too dark that basically this episode is the Martians steal technology from the Enterprise, use it to genocide the fifth planet in the Earth's solar system, which is the homeworld of a bunch of arachnids, and Pike allows them to do it to preserve the present?
Bob, the whole point, what did April say at the beginning of the episode? Sometimes you got to go watch and observe. You're just going to watch. That's what they had to do. They had to watch and observe. Had they done something, they would have messed it up.
It's humans getting towards Q consciousness, man.
It's ridiculous when you think about it in the grand scheme of things. It's literally saying the Enterprise is responsible for creating humanity.
Yeah. Or I guess the Enterprise's non-action is, well, it's presence, then it's non-action creating humanity. They try to soft pedal it a little bit because Pike is understandably having a hard time with the fact that he allowed a genocide. They killed all these arachnids that also resulted in the destruction of Mars as a habitable world for the Martian civilization. He was bemoaning the loss of both the arachnids and the Martians, and Mbinga says that, oh, actually, you can see traces of Martian DNA in a lot of contemporary species, implying that at least some of them got off Mars after Mars was shifted out of orbit. And for a minute, I thought they were going with Mbinga was going to say that the Martians were Vulcan ancestors, because if I'm remembering right, in Gene Roddenberry's original pitch for Star Trek, Spock was described as a Martian instead of a Vulcan. They don't do that and keep it more generic. Have you ever heard of Edgar Rice Burroughs' Princess of Mars, Matt?
No, I haven't.
You remember the Disney movie from 15 years ago, John Carter of Mars?
Yes.
John Carter is the series and the protagonist, and John Carter of Mars is a loose adaptation of the first novel. In some ways, it's the first big epic sci-fi series, is The Princess of Mars or the John Carter series. I've never read that series. I was thinking about starting it this summer, but haven't gotten around to it yet. Maybe I should go ahead since Pike is also reading Princess of Mars. He also makes this point about his father that I think his father was making fun of the book because there were no prehistoric Martians. Now Pike wants to gloat to his dead father about, no, actually, Dad, I saw prehistoric Martians.
That's awesome. So Princess of Mars, the guy who wrote that also wrote Tarzan, right?
He also wrote Tarzan. He also wrote a series about Venus. Yeah, Edgar Rice Burroughs. I think Princess of Mars is 1912. And I think the series continues into the 30s.
Bob, my character this episode and your character this episode are the same because there's only one character this episode that could make sense. And I'll let you do the honors, Bob.
Yeah, it's La'an for punching that raptor, Matt.
Yeah, Leon punching a raptor. If you don't see any other scene in this episode, at least watch Leon punch a raptor.
It's great. I'm not sure if I love this plot, but they're going to do a thing with, okay, La'an's augment DNA is activated, and maybe she's going to go full Khan, maybe not. I'm not sure if I love that as a direction, but when you name a character La'an, Noonien Singh, you are basically saying that is what you're going to do before the show is over.
Yeah, they were setting her up, especially since she's not a character in any of the other series. She's your new character, and her last name is Noonien Singh.
We both want La'an punching that raptor. That means neither of us can have La'an punching that raptor. So who's your number 2 for character of the episode?
My number 2, Bob, goes to Scotty, and that's for putting the warning alarms on Ortegas's flight equipment.
Solely to annoy her.
Yes, just to annoy her.
I appreciated Scotty's war with Ortegas as well, and that relates to my choice. So I'm going to go with number 1, because I enjoyed seeing number 1 have to mediate between La'an and Ortegas, right? La'an, maybe as a result of the augment DNA, is a little bit more aggressive about the dinosaurs, including punching them. And Ortegas is being a bit more pacifistic. So number 1 has to mediate between them. Then number 1 is also mediating between Ortegas and Scotty's war of passive aggression. So I salute to number 1 for that. She definitely deserves the promotion that Pike recommends her for.
I agree that Pike did not take the promotion to Commodore.
That's right.
Which we never see Pike as a Commodore in previous Trek.
But do you remember what his rank is in Menagerie, Matt?
Fleet captain?
Very good memory, Matt.
I think a fleet captain is just any captain who has command of 2 ships.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much it's a role versus how much it's also a rank.
He doesn't take the position. But even if he did, I think he could still be a captain of a ship because Commodore Decker wasn't he over a ship at some point?
Yeah, you do have Commodore Decker and I think Commodore Wesley in the original series command
Yeah.
ships. He might not have to give up Enterprise immediately. We will see you next week as we cover episode 2 of season 4 of Strange New Worlds. We're both so excited to have Strange New Worlds back. So nice to have Star Trek back.
Very
And
much. Thanks for listening.
have a great night, everyone.